Hello again.
Hello. Hi.
Hey everyone. I
Hello.
finally got my page editing access back, so I will create an agenda. Okay. I'm gonna share this agenda around. I don't really know. We don't necessarily need to do it. I have a few topics that I'd like to discuss. I'll probably just end up taking notes in here. I know Justin has a topic he'd like to discuss. Um, and yeah, so the usual suspects. We are being recorded, of course. There's an antitrust notice for the Linux Foundation, and be polite, of course, to everyone else. But welcome to the June 11th call. Does anyone else, before we get started, actually, does anyone else have items they'd like to put on the agenda? Um, I will be discussing some of the sunset legacy features that I've been sharing around with some of the contributors. I believe Justin wants to discuss some changes around the release process. We probably should discuss Besu native. And I had one or two other things I'm trying to recall, but anyone else have anything they want to add there? Yeah, Matt Whitehead with a BFT or with a Bonsai and BFT consensus update as well. And yeah, anyone else for any agenda items? Would anyone like to get started?
I don't
No
mind going
strong
first.
passion, Justin. Go for
Sure. Um, I think most of this has actually been fairly well documented and transparent. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. There is a ongoing discussion in Besu releases on Discord where I am cleaning up, consolidating, and finalizing-ish some of the release documentation that we have. There were 5 or 6 different versions of a release process in our wiki. It's very confusing. We've stripped that down to something that reflects the most recent releases and how those processes have gone. So please take a look at those wiki pages, add comments, concerns, etc., etc. There is also an open PR for a issue template in GitHub. So when you do a release, you'll create a new issue and you'll get this checklist of things that you need to do. Obviously, as much of this is automated as possible, but there's always going to be some other things that need to be captured there. So this is a call for comments.
Want to share the link in the chat? I'll put it in the notes as well.
Sure. Like I said, it's all in the Besu release channel and Discord. Yeah, but that's all I have. Thanks.
Cool. I've put the agenda in the chat as well, so folks can take notes of that. I was there. And check there later for material. Um, let's see. Speaking of releases, why don't we discuss Space Native next? Some part of the net was that we were trying to fix some of the issues overnight. We were not able to completely resolve those. I think, Justin, do you have the latest on this specifically?
Yeah, sort of. So it turns out that just overwriting the existing, um, overwriting the Besu native artifact is not as easy the second time around as it was the first time, unfortunately. So reverting that has been difficult. I think right now. Matt, happy to give you a moment to tell us how your workaround is going. We could go back and cut a 0.8.4.1 release. I am not super familiar with the Besu native release process though, so that could take some time.
Yeah, I guess I can give an update just on what we're trying to do. So we're probably going to end up building our own, running our own kind of verification spot list task to update the verification XML in our fork of 24.5.2. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment. And that really means we'll just be running a cherry pick commit that's on top of 24.5.2. I guess for just for general awareness, I think the reason we prefer to avoid that is because our users quite like being able to look at the version we bundle in our offering and match it back to a precise open source commit. And so we'd prefer not to do what we're going to try and do. But I think that's where we're at. And I'm assuming that's going to go fairly easily. I was hitting some issues, but I'm not sure. I don't think they're anything to do with Besu. I think they're local build issues at the moment. But I guess it raises, it just raises just the general issue of software supply chain kind of stack. I guess it's made us a little nervous this could happen again. And the version that the commit we build from, until we do an upgrade, we're not guaranteed to be able to build at any time if something goes wrong like this again with Besu native. So I guess there's maybe a general discussion for the community about that software supply chain, like how does a vendor build reliably the same commit of the Besu repo and know that that's going to be a kind of a reliable, repeatable build. I did wonder if it was possible to put checks on the artifacts library. Is it Maven or JFrog? I kind of lost track. To stop it even version being updated. I don't know if things like that are things that could be explored.
That's actually what is going on right now.
Right.
And I think kind of causing some of the problems with re-overwriting it, but yeah, Besu native is kind of in a bad state, and I think that we should give it the same attention that we gave Besu. What with
a TLDR on what happened with Besu native? Is it we overrode an artifact with a subsequent artifact that was built with 21? Is that the gist of it?
Yep. Basically what happened was 0.8.4 was released, forgot to check in a update to the Gab coordinates that sets it to snapshot. And then the next commit that went in on main, the CI automation woke up and said, oh, you're trying to release 0.8.4 again. I'll go and do that for you. And it did it, and it overrode it. And when it did that, the version metadata had not been updated as well. And so now you have an artifact present in Artifactory at the 0.8.4 coordinates, which will not pass a verification because its metadata is wrong.
So quick question on that. The verification metadata from Besu, can't we just update the verification metadata to reflect the current one?
It's the one in Besu native.
Besu native has, what's its dependency? What's its gap coordinate dependency? I mean, I thought it was the dependency.
Is it not the verification data in Besu that's needs to match what's in native?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And if that is the case, so I think that's basically what we're going to try and do now. I think that's what fixed it in like main. I think so. A bit more context from our point of view is we take Besu, we package it in our offering, but that means we take a version and we run a whole bunch of testing against it and prove it out. And at that point, we're kind of ready to release it. What we can't just leap ahead to an arbitrary point in main. Firstly, we want to base stuff off a build because then it's had all of Besu's burn-in testing as well. And so we take a Besu release, which is our burn-in testing. We add our own testing, and then we're pretty confident in the release. So that fix that you described, I think, is in main. But what we've been trying to work out on Discord in the last couple of days is do we do that ourselves and cherry pick or like build our own commit on top of it? Does Besu create like a cherry pick release off of 24.5.2 that has exactly that fix in, and then that's a formal Besu release, and we can base off that? And we're doing the former at the moment because we're trying to, we really want to pick up CVE fixes and things.
So two thoughts occur to me. One, the simplest fix for this, in my perspective, would be to rerun the release pipeline for a version of Besu Native that it was originally overwritten. So we just re-release Besu Native with the correct verification metadata. I guess we can't though because the dates will be different, so the SHAs will be different. Secondarily, I think what probably caused this is we have now kind of a mismatch in expectation. Besu Native is doing the release process similar to what Besu was previously doing, where we had explicit commits in Gradle properties with the version and so forth. And it seems to me that Besu Native should now be doing what Besu is doing, where it automatically derives a semver release from when it was actually built. And just automatically do that. And that way we shouldn't have this overwrite problem. People can't accidentally forget to update the properties and overwrite releases. It sounds like Justin's got some other work he's doing to keep that from happening. But secondarily, I think we should get the same type of versioning that we do with Besu in Besu Native. Just for clarification, like Besu Native, there's a Gradle properties file where you need to explicitly rev 0.8.4 to 0.8.5, etc. Whereas in Besu now, we just we build a semver version like 24.5.2 or 24.6.1 based on when the pipeline was actually run. So we should prevent these overwrites that way.
Yeah, I think that definitely sounds like an improvement. I think maybe that coupled with like even if that pipeline gets broken again, whether or not there are things that could just literally on the Maven side stop a version being replaced. We've been considering whether or not we ought to create like a mirror of Besu Native at a given version in our own internal JFrog that we know we can then use as the basis for our Besu builds. But I think we probably wouldn't need to do that if there were sufficient checks in Maven to prevent this, and I guess coupled with some of the checks you've talked about.
Justin, it sounds like you were already doing some work on trying to resolve the Besu Native build issue. Is that kind of
Not really. No, I was kind of just suggesting similar to what you were, that Besu Native is old and crufty from a CI/CD perspective, and we need to update it. As far as like short-term fixes, I think we should, just kind of defer to Matt whatever he needs. And if there's anything we can do to facilitate kind of hacking around the problem, happy to help.
Yeah, thank you. I think I think for us it should be as simple as we just recreate the verification data ourselves. Like I say, I'm hitting some issues with that. I don't think they're anything to do with Besu particularly. I'm just seeing some build issues with that. And then I think we're good. I think yeah, I might come to the community if I fail to get around those build issues, just because there might be something about the verification, rebuilding the verification data I'm getting wrong. But other than that, I think that's our plan, kind of route out of it.
Just one thing. When you, so in my case, I was working on the fix, And when you locally change the checksum for the 084, you have also to use the Gradle option to refresh all the dependencies, because you might have the original 084 in your cache, and then the checksum again does not match because you don't get the one that's in the repo.
Ah, is that an extra
It's like
step on the
dash
spotless
dash.
check?
Yeah, it's like no. It's like when you execute the Gradle command, you can specify dash dash. I think it's like refresh dependencies or something like this. So this is just to tell Gradle to really download all the dependencies again and to not use any cached ones.
Thanks. I've just pasted a link in the into the chat, which is where I've been basically using that as my guide for what to run to regenerate it. Is it an
Okay.
extra step on that, did you say?
No, I mean, this you only need in this one specific case because we have published the same version twice. So normally you don't need it. Normally for a normal update, you just need that. Yeah. The command in the wiki is correct. It's just
But
if you still get like a checksum mismatch, most probably is because you have the old, so like the original 084 still in your Gradle cache.
I see. Okay. So is a Gradle clean a good way to just clear all that out and go again?
Yeah, could be as well.
Yeah.
I think just to get rid of all the everything that it has cached in the end.
Okay, thank you. I'll bear that in mind if I keep hitting issues.
Yeah.
All right. Any more on this one? Okay. Matt, why don't you give an update or on the QBFT bonsai stuff, and then I'll talk about the sunset
sure.
document.
Yeah, so yeah, stepping aside from kind of release stuff at the moment. Yeah, so I've raised 2 PRs. I've been doing some testing and some development, and I've had some useful input from Gary and Karim, I think it is, and Jason as well on a thread on Discord. So I think so there are a couple of things. One is there's one PR is just a fix to the way BFT updates state where it shouldn't, and that's a simple one. The other is kind of slightly broader, and it talks more generally to what does it mean to use bonsai, and I should say SnapSync. I should have put that in the thing. Really, it's bonsai and SnapSync that I'm really focused on. What does that mean for a chain where you might be starting a new QBFT chain for an enterprise user, where you haven't got any nodes and you don't necessarily want to order the creation of nodes where you start with some full sync forest nodes and then you've got something to sync from. So then you kind of enable bonsai and SnapSync maybe, or having to worry about those kind of combinations is what I've been trying to avoid. So the PR that's slightly bigger makes some kind of pragmatic assertions about when to kind of totally break out of the SnapSync process and revert to full sync, which is I think I'm not super familiar with this area, but I think once you get to within like 50 blocks of the head of the chain, full sync kind of steps in anyway. So for certain cases where, for example, you've created a new chain with 4 validators and they're all talking to each other and none of them have any state to share with each other, the issue I was thinking was none of them would have any state, so they'd all just go into a loop of saying, well, I'll ask you again in a few seconds. So there's some pragmatic things in that PR. Would just break out of those situations and go, well, look, we're all validators. We'll be able to mine stuff if we're all at the same place in the chain. But I think there are some interesting discussions about what that kind of means for a brand new chain. But the good news is for a lot of the kind of cases that we tend to find people are just kind of kicking the tires with Besu and Enterprise. Like I've created one node and I want it to be the only validator. There are no other nodes to sync with. And again, that was a case where it would just hang because it needed at least one peer to talk to sync with. Again, I've kind of put some changes into the PR, which go, well, if I'm the only validator, I'm not going to hang around and on the off chance there's another non-validator I could get state from. I'm just gonna break out of the snap sync process and start mining blocks from where I'm at. So that, yeah, again, more kind of pragmatic steps to make kubeft, Bonsai, and Snap a kind of I think a workable combination. I think it's all working pretty well. And with the other PR that fixes the issue around some invalid blocks occasionally, I think I'm now actually at the point of being able to start ramping up kind of some of our performance tests against it. The theory is we should get some benefit from Bonsai compared to Forest for cases where you're reading state during a test. So I think we're at the point where we can start exercising it more and seeing if there are any performance benefits in some of the kind of ERC20 tests that we do. But yeah, generally I think the story is kind of a fairly positive one. But I'd welcome any feedback on the PR, and just generally that kind of trust model of the sync min peers default is 5, I think. And I think what I would propose for enterprise users is sync min peers could probably be 1, because the trust model for who I trust for my sync data is quite different. But if people have other thoughts about that, then I'd welcome any comments people have about some of those assumptions I've made. But I've tried to put all of that into the PR description, so there's one place people can have a look at the kind of the assumptions I've been working to.
That's awesome. And these are the 2 links that I've added in the
Thank you.
the notes if anyone's curious, and I'll share in the chat.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any comments now? We'll probably get some people to review these. These are the same link. No? All right. Well, we'll keep making sure they'll get some reviews on these and keep pushing these forwards. This is looking pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I should say the combination of so a while back, because we realized it kind of didn't work as a combination. Sally, I think, put in a check that stopped Besu starting if you enable Snap and kubeft or IBFT. So and because previously I did some work on the Shanghai stuff for kubeft, and then we found some issues there. I decided for this I'd be a bit more conservative, and I've put all of the Snap sync plus kubeft behind an experimental flag for now. So hopefully that means that people can try it out and know that it's experimental, that they shouldn't be creating brand new kind of production chains yet with it, because there's still more to prove out. So yeah, hopefully that means we can be a little bit more relaxed about maybe putting it in behind that switch while it kind of proves out.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Any other comments on kubeft and Bonsai? Cool. All right. I saw some reviews already in this PR. I think we should just go back and forth on those specifically.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. I think probably my turn to find this. So the document, whoops. I'll deal with this later. But anyway, sorry, I'm trying to type and talk. The legacy features sunset plan is a document that I've been circulating. I haven't posted it to the wiki yet because I actually wanted to get feedback from everyone before I set it essentially in stone as our way forward. We got some really good comments and feedback. I'm actually just going to switch over to it right now. The goal, again, is to lay out a plan and not actually execute on this or to, go forward. It's mostly just a strategy. So I've shared the link with a lot of the folks on the call. And again, these are only features in consideration. We're not going to go ahead and cut these out starting immediately. But what I would like to do is get some broad scale feedback on this, like as far as way forward, so that I can start with this kind of announcement phase, which I think needs to happen pretty soon. In my mind, I think we've landed on essentially starting with the less consequential features as far as users are concerned. So Tessera, and ultimately ending with, kind of Tessera and things like permissioning. And as we move through the testing that Matt Whitehead is doing as well, we can start to look at things like fast sync. I think forest mode will be a little different, and we'll kind of get there when we get there. I think we should start chipping away at this incrementally. I don't really think that we need to rush into this one, primarily because there's a lot behind this. And then a little less of consequence to the folks on this call, but still important, is discussing things like proof of work and click mode. Click is useful for development, but I think ultimately the goal will be to kind of either move these out to a plugin or just remove these kinds of consensus algorithms, as they're kind of not quite used in the main code paths anymore. And there's extremely low usage of the Besu on Ethereum Classic. So I think that, yeah, in context of this discussion, basically, I'm hoping to get a, kind of a tacit approval to move forward, at least on these top two, while we iterate a little more on what the bottom ones look like. And again, I want to make sure that there are some dependencies in here. For example, like we would have to predicate in the case of Forest, at least, we would predicate the removal of any code path with Forest on the delivery of an archive solution. There's other dependencies in here as well. It's not just that specific one. So if you haven't had a chance to review, definitely do that. And I know that we have George on the call. I was hoping we could actually get a little more of an understanding of what this is, because as Justin mentioned, some of the state interfaces for things like privacy are just key value pairs. And I was wondering if some of these privacy solutions would actually be compatible with Bonsai State as well. And if this is a large blocker, like how we should go about engaging these customers. I would love to use those announcement blogs to get people to reach out to us and say, hey, this actually does cause issues. Can we chat over what that means? But yeah, I'd really like to move on to Sarah as quickly as possible and permissioning. So I just wanted to get this brought up to those on the phone before I published more broadly. But yeah, George, I know you came off mute there for a second. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, so I wrote this now last week, and at that time I was just talking to one of our customers and just showing like a stamp of what will be the changes over the next few months in Besu. And at that time he became a bit worried because he's running a privacy plugin. I don't have the code to see exactly if they're using some underlying implementation or they're using only the interface. So I need also to clarify that, and I'll with a more detailed answer.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think what I'll do is move Forest to the bottom of this doc, and I think it's the biggest sticking point for both existing enterprise customers and for that's the only one. Just existing enterprise customers are making large use of this. And then I'll focus in kind of on ordering these and getting the blog written. I want to caveat, like, we're not doing any of this in a vacuum. So to say, like, the announcement phase is really to get public feedback on this as well. Like, we're not going to say, hey, this is what's happening. We're going to say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. These are the reasons why. This is the impacted area of code. And here's how we're addressing those impacts. And here's the benefits, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping to put out quite like within the next kind of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I just want to get ahead of this so that a 6-month interval would put us at the beginning of 2025, which would be a good time to start deprecating some features, as we've had lots of time for folks to let everything sink in and get things sorted out before the kind of end of the new year. Any broad comments, concerns? Okay, that works for me. As usual, I will put this document's link in the notes for this. So if you do want to review, that's really annoying. I need this widget to go away. whatever. I'll figure this out. Okay, seems to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, just anyway, check out this this Google Doc here. And if you have any feedback, let me know. You can reach out to me privately too if you think that there's something worthwhile. And I'm gonna move on the my plan is to move on writing that announcement blog somewhat soon so that I can start to socialize these features, and I will obviously socialize the results of that blog when it's written.
Yeah. Very good.
Cool. Um, awesome. So no real feedback there. Any other comments on this sunset plan or anything else there? Otherwise, I think I'm done. If anyone else has any other agenda items or questions.
Before we go, I would like to bring something in here. I want to push a pull request for a review because I opened it now some time ago. It is the same pull request that I was talking about in one of our last best contributors calls. And it's about enabling the incrementing private nodes if a private transaction failed. It was an open issue, was for by some business customers, and I just solved that. 1 second, I'll paste it in chat. Yep, this one. I mean, it was first reviewed by Stefan and Sally, but and I asked again for their review, but it's still waiting, and I really appreciate.
Gotcha. Yeah, we discussed this PR last night, actually. So I will I'll flag this with both of them as well. I'm hoping that Stefan will have time to review this week because we just, like I said, we just discussed this one last night. So I'll take this for notes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, anything else?
Seem to have covered a lot of ground rather quickly.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. Do we have any, like, who's holding the next action on this one?
I'm
The
in
Besu native
repo with the narc crypto stuff, so I can help. I can assist Matt if he wants to reach out if he has any problems with updating the metadata in Besu to reflect the current, or if we need to do a release. Since I'm in that code right now, that's it'll be right at my fingertips. If he needs some help, I can take point.
Thank you. That's really appreciated. Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping that with the combination of just cleaning out my Gradle environment and rebuilding it locally, then I'll be all right. But thank you. I'll give you a shout if I'm hitting issues, Gary.
Perfect. And I'll take point also on converting to Calver in Besu native, assuming we have I'll just let the PR be the vote for whether we want to go to Calver, but I presume we will want to.
I think we should just marry it up with Besu main as much as possible to avoid headaches.
Agreed.
All right. Go ahead.
Luis, are you interested in introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my background is I come from a education background of control theory, control engineering, and robotics. But funnily enough, I transitioned into software development afterwards. I also did some work in networking. So I'm very interested in software and networking. And in my previous two companies, I was doing some bytecodes so working with bytecode and instrumentation, JVM, PI, GNI, in applied, so in the field of security, so building security features, runtime self-protection, if you know about that topic. So I'm a JVM compiler guy, hoping to help out in some of the areas in Ethereum related to EVM and performance, and also learning new stuff in other areas like consensus. And what else can I tell you? I think it's pretty much it. Today's my first day. So
Welcome,
that's pretty much
welcome,
it.
new full-time contributor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing there for sure. I'm sure we'll have more to hear from you in the future. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. I think that covers it. I will go ahead and save and share the chat or the notes and chat one more time. As usual, they live on the wiki underneath, well, technically in the wrong place in the tree right now. I need to move this, but as usual, they can be found on the wiki underneath the agendas page. Oh, no. Well, you know where to find them. Anyway, thanks everyone, and we will see you in the Discord and again in 1 month's time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, bye.
Here's what.
Yeah.